Hey, what's going on, guys? Nick from Confident Video, and this isn't unfortunately the video tutorial kind of thing that I promised in the last video I made. I'm still writing that out and it's taking a little bit longer than I expected, mostly because of school, so I do apologize for that. But instead I wanted to bring you more of an update to my Anime Milwaukee review. So in my Anime Milwaukee review, one of the staff members personally contacted me on my Facebook saying that if I wanted to hear some kind of inside information about what went wrong in Anime Milwaukee, that they would be more than willing to do so. Out of respect to privacy, I'm not going to release this person's name or the position that they had at Anime Milwaukee, and I won't actually be showing the screenshots of the messages either, unless it's deemed necessary later. I did get permission from this person that I could talk about the things that we discussed in the messages. However, they just asked that I keep their name private as well as their position in Anime Milwaukee, and I'm more than willing to do that for them. So the first thing I asked about was the Thursday badge pickup, because there seemed to be issues with it, especially with group pickups. And what she told me was that their printer had issues, it was running out of ink and they weren't able to actually print all the groups in time, and that's why there was only 3 group badges able to be picked up at that time. So it actually had nothing to do with any groups filling it out incorrectly or anything like that. All the groups filled out everything the right way. It's actually just that their printer ran out of ink and they weren't able to actually print out the stuff ahead of time. And actually, in my opinion, that makes it not seem as bad, because that just ends up being an unfortunate error where you run out of ink, and sometimes getting ink is very challenging and it costs a lot of money, and I know how all that works, so I understand the frustrations that they must have had when doing badge pickup for that. And then also they mentioned that this backed up actually schedule printing, and we'll go into the book later, but for right now this actually backed up them printing their panel books or their schedules, whichever one, because they actually do have separate schedule sheets as well. That actually backed that up, and if you were trying to get like a book or a schedule and you couldn't get one, this could be the reason why. And like I said, this isn't poor scheduling, it's actually just the fact that they just had the unfortunate kind of reality that you run out of ink sometimes, and that's actually really sad when that happens. I've had that happen to me and it just really sucks. The biggest thing for me was actually what happened on Friday morning, where people were not being let into the convention center on the time that they originally promised. And what I was told was that Anime Milwaukee was not ready, and that's what I was told by a Wisconsin Center staff member. However, when talking to this Anime Milwaukee staff member, they told me that they were not letting people in. The Wisconsin Center staff were not letting people in for whatever reason, and that was actually the Wisconsin Center staff, and that was not Anime Milwaukee. It didn't make sense to me that they wouldn't let people in even if they weren't ready for registration, because people already have their badges. So I'm actually going to have to believe the Anime Milwaukee staff on this one, because the stories line up with my experience. The staff member actually did apologize for this, and they are actually looking into this situation a lot further. The more that they talk to the Wisconsin Center staff, the more they're trying to investigate it, as well as they're investigating a lot of instances where the Wisconsin Center staff were very rude to the convention attendees, so they are investigating that as well, which is really reassuring. Even though it didn't happen to me at all, it's really reassuring that they are looking into something as simple as the convention center staff not being as respectful as they could be. And the next thing that I did ask about was actually the panel book, and they did mention that the panel book was a really big flop and there's a lot of things wrong with it, and they were aware of it way even before the convention even started, is because actually they didn't meet the deadline of which they originally planned on releasing the book, so they actually had to reuse a lot of the same material that they used last year, so that kind of explains a lot of what was going on with the panel book. They also did mention that next year's panel books will be significantly better than this past year's, and it will have all of the information that is needed in a panel book. What that includes is times, locations, everything that wasn't in the panel book, they guaranteed will be in it next year. The next thing I had a gripe about was the app, and if you did watch my Anime Milwaukee review, you do know how bad I really drilled them for the app and how it didn't work at all. And they did explain to me that the app is not made by them, and I was very aware of that. I kind of figured that it wasn't made by them. However, what they did say was that the people that made the app released a really big update in the middle of the convention weekend, and that actually caused a lot of the errors that I complained about. Not all of them, but some of them. And then they also did mention that the head of the media department, who is actually in charge of all like the Facebook and the social media and the app, really did drill the people that make the app, because there's no reason why the major update couldn't have been released after the weekend, and they are actually very upset about that happening. They aren't confirming or denying whether or not they are going to keep using the app next year. They do believe that if the app didn't have all the errors that it did this year, it would have been a great app. And I actually do agree, as long as they have the panel book have all of the proper times in it, I see no issue with using the app. They also mentioned to me that they did print the schedules on the large sheets of paper, which I was aware about. However, what happened was because the ink issue again, they ran out of ink, they weren't able to actually print out more of those, so they weren't able to keep making those schedules for people. So it was really unfortunate for them, where they wanted to provide the information for people, but then they just ran out because they weren't able to keep up with the demand of these attendees of Anime Milwaukee. The next thing I brought up was the rave, and this was a really minor thing because I knew that it was just an off year with the lineup, and all they mentioned to me was that the person that organized the rave was very experienced, and I did know that, and a lot of the issues that they had were mostly with equipment. What they told me was that the speakers were either too loud or they weren't loud enough, and whenever I was there, it was not loud enough in my opinion, and for a big chunk of the beginning of the night, I don't think it was loud enough. And what they actually told me is that the convention center staff, so not Anime Milwaukee staff, Wisconsin Center staff, kept telling them to turn it down, and they say that they're going to discuss that with them at a later date so that they can hopefully get this resolution, kind of like this balance of like communication fixed, because right now it seems like they're doing things that Anime Milwaukee doesn't want them to do, and they aren't really discussing it. So hopefully by doing these meetings that they plan on doing, this will solve a lot of the issues that they have with communication. So 2 minor things left, and the first one being that the February-March time switch, it was only because there was conflicting dates with the Wisconsin Center, which is what I assumed. So there was really no major reason behind that, like any significant reason, which really didn't bug me at all because I actually enjoyed it. And then all I did was I mentioned to them about the cosplay meetup location 2 in the Hyatt. It was really dark in there, and it's really hard to get photos, so you're kind of screwed if you were in cosplay meetup location 2 for your cosplay and you weren't able to get the best photos possible. And all they were able to tell me for that is that they were working on that for next year, so hopefully for next year we will see a better location for cosplay meetup location 2. However, they aren't able to tell me anything besides that. So that's everything we talked about. I know there was other things that other people complained about. However, these are all the things that I wrote in my review that I wanted to have answered, and I want to thank the staff member that was willing to take the time to kind of answer my questions and listen to my concerns. It's really showing that Anime Milwaukee really cares about their convention, and they really care about the people, and they want to improve. Otherwise, they wouldn't have staff members doing this. So I really do want to thank the entire staff of Anime Milwaukee for always taking the time to listen to how they can make their convention better. And then one more thing actually, this staff member in particular told me that they had a really large issue with volunteers. They were low in numbers, and then people just weren't showing up. So if you do really want to volunteer and you really want to help, I really do recommend it because it actually does help out the convention a lot. And if you do volunteer, please make sure you show up. I run a student organization, and it is really frustrating when you have people volunteer and they don't show up. It actually just throws a giant wrench in everything that you plan, because you are planning around the exact number of volunteers that you want to have at that event. So please, if you're volunteering, please show up on time, and if they do need more volunteers, I'm sure many of you guys would be willing to do that. So if you do want to do that, please look out for information about that. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys did really enjoy this update to my Anime Milwaukee review. I'm really glad that I was able to get this information and pass it on to you guys. I promise that my advanced video tutorial will be up soon. I'm still writing it. School's been really painful for me, so I do apologize for that. So that'll be out as soon as I can get it out to you guys. And it's probably going to be in multiple parts because it is going to be a very in-depth video series. So I'm not going to date it, but you should be on the lookout for it very soon. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video once again, and I will see you guys at the next convention.